All right, let's get New Jersey wild. Hello and good morning. I will go ahead and introduce ourselves and ask you to introduce yourselves. I'm Lieutenant Colonel Mavis. I am a JAG with the United States Air Force, so a practicing attorney with the United States Air Force, currently in Colorado Springs, Colorado, teaching at the United States Air Force Academy. Richard?
My name is Richard Leiter. I'm a professor and director of the Law Library at the University of Nebraska College of Law here in Lincoln, Nebraska. I've been judging We the People competitions for about 15 years at the state level. This is my first experience judging at the nationals, and I'm happy to be here.
Hello, everybody. My name is Candida Steele, and I retired as a judge on the U.S. Civilian Board of Contract Appeals. I handled federal government contract disputes around the country, and I've been judging with this program for about 20 years. And I just want to highlight that Kurt Mavis, Lieutenant Colonel Mavis, participated in this program, and as you can see, it's a good launch.
Yes, thank you. If you all don't mind introducing yourselves and your teacher.
Hi, my name is Niyati. I'm representing High School North with the NJ Wild team. I'm excited to be here. I'm a senior, and yeah, I'm excited to be here with my colleagues today. And I'll pass it off to Zia.
Hi, my name is Zia, and I'm in 11th grade, and I'm also in West Windsor High School North. And I would like to pass it off to my colleague, Gervais.
Hi, I'm Gervais. I'm also a junior at High School North, and yeah, I'm excited to be here. And
Great.
I'm going to set up my teacher, Ms. Olson.
All right.
Great.
Well, thank you. Thank you for being here. So, all right, we will be discussing question number 1. I'll read the question, allow you to prepare, and then excited to hear your answers. A result of the decision in Wisconsin v. Yoder is that any parent or guardian can refuse to let their child go to school beyond the 8th grade or learn about a subject by saying it's against their religious beliefs. Do you agree or disagree with the result of the decision? Why or why not? What words, if any, are found in the US Constitution or in state constitutions that protect the right to an education? And how have the courts balanced religious beliefs with other rights? Over to you.
We believe that if there is a rational cause and practicality behind a parent's decision to deny their children certain educational experiences, then it should be allowed. The Wisconsin v. Yoder case discussed the rights of the Amish community in regards to removing their children from school beyond the 8th grade. The Supreme Court argued that the Amish's religious beliefs were inseparable and interdependent from their way of life, so forbidding them from dropping out of school would negatively impact their ability to correctly practice their religion. Additionally, the Amish argued that leaving school held a practical reason as well. It gave the Amish children an opportunity to learn a trade skill that wouldn't be accessible through traditional schooling. This ensured that their religion could coincide with employment opportunities. While this court ruling addressed the specific needs of the Amish community, it can be brought into other religions and other communities as well. Essentially, if the decision to not learn a subject or to leave school serves a practical purpose and a genuine established religious practice, it could be allowed. There are no direct provisions in the US Constitution that protect the right to education. However, one allusion to it is in the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment, which states that states may not deny any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws. And if they do not provide educational opportunities, they could be punished. One example is in the Plyer v. Doe case, where the court ruled that while undocumented families are not American citizens, they are people in an ordinary sense of the term and are protected by the 14th Amendment. Further alluding to this protection is the Due Process Clause in the 14th Amendment, which states that states may not deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without the due process of the law.
Education is also crucial to life since progress falls around it. Getting higher level jobs, moving up the social ladder, owning property, and more. It can also be argued that a minimal education is necessary to exercise other explicit constitutional rights. For example, if citizens aren't properly educated on issues, they might not be able to exercise free speech, limiting their ability to contribute to society. This minimal level of education is necessary to provide for the general welfare. The funding for education rights is also implicit in the taxes that Congress collects, as written in Article 1, Section 8, or the General Welfare Clause. In states where education is part of police powers that emanate from the 10th Amendment, specific wording in state constitutions mandate provisions for education. In New Jersey, the right to education is mentioned in Article 8, where it states that institutions that provide education free, thorough, efficient, and available to all children. However, the rest is left to interpretation.
Separating religion and state has been a problem since our country was established and is still a problem that we fight to this day. It is legal for schools to discriminate based on their religious beliefs. There are cases in which teachers who are in same-sex relationships were fired for their sexuality. It is also legal to provide a specific service, to not provide a specific service to someone if it violates deeply held religious beliefs. It has always been a struggle to provide, although it has been a struggle to balance the two, there are many cases in which the courts have been successful in balancing religious beliefs with other rights. A prime example of this is in the case Wallace versus Jeffrey, in which the courts were deciding if there should still be prayers in public schools. The Supreme Court ruled that the Alabama law from 1981 and 1982 violated constitutional principle and there could no longer be prayers in public schools. It, however, upheld the law from 1978, which allowed a minute of silence for meditation. Another example of this is in the Hyla case of 1992, where the government allowed people from this interior religion to sacrifice animals as long as it is within the bounds of the health codes. Though balancing religious rights with other rights is difficult, the history of jurisprudence from Reynolds versus U.S. to Employment Division versus Smith shows that freedom to believe is absolute, but to exercise is not.
Wonderful, thank you. Great timing. And I want to follow up on kind of the closing part of your opening statement. You mentioned you bring in Smith, and that was a distinct decision than Yoder. You also in your opening statement talk about a practical purpose test. What's the appropriate test to balance all these significant rights that we talked about? What do you consider to be the appropriate test in free exercise clause?
So in the situation with Wisconsin v. Yoder, we saw that the practicality behind it was based on their employment opportunities and the fact that some employment opportunities would not be able to be practiced based on their religion. So if it serves a practical purpose in society, for example, in regards to employment, then I guess that will pass the test. Whereas if it's more arbitrary or solely based on religion, then it might be harder to incorporate in a more secular society.
I just want to, sorry, Rich, I just want to make sure I understand, what is the it that is the practical purpose?
It would probably be, aside from religion, how does this exception from school allow this person to live life in a way that ensures their liberty is protected, as well as their opportunity to be a productive citizen in society in a more secular manner.
Okay, so to follow up, excuse me, to follow up on this, where you're going, we're now trying to determine what that belief is. What is how do we determine when this religious belief allows the parent to make the decision to pull their child out of school? What I'm getting at here is, how do we balance the parent's right against the child's right?
I think that it mainly determines it's a case on case basis. So like it depends on each case. They might be different. Perhaps like in one case, they're dropping out of school or leaving school in order to practice religion isn't necessarily helping the individual contribute to society and further their well-being. And in that case, I think that there should be some guidelines in place that will help determine whether or not it is beneficial or not.
I think it should also be decided upon if it affects other people, like other citizens. For example, in cases of vaccinations, if you want to get your kid vaccinated, would it also harm other citizens if you don't get vaccinated, who are not practicing religion?
So what do you think about, how do you think schools should handle requirements to have students have vaccinations, especially in this pandemic?
So like Gervais said, because in the case of vaccinations or public health, the choice that the parent makes for their children does not solely affect the child's life, it also affects those around the child. So in situations where you might be threatening the safety of other people around you in order to practice your religious beliefs, then there should be more guidelines put in place to either ensure that you can not get vaccinated and somehow still protect the safety of those around you, or you might have to get vaccinated to ensure that if you are to attend school, you will not be exposing anybody else to deadly diseases.
But you're talking about the negative impact of a parent's decision. Isn't one of the most important pieces of a society is to have an informed and educated citizenry? So by pulling people out of school at an early age, aren't we impacting the community as a whole? How do you balance that with your argument here?
Going back to Zia's point, I think that's a really great point. In the case for Wisconsin v. Yoder, specifically for the Amish community, we find that they're already pretty detached from the rest of society and isolated within themselves. So leaving school early would not impact the wider range of those around them, since they are mainly focused on their own smaller community. However, because they're leaving school in order to learn a trade skill and to further their employment opportunities, they would be they would be still contributing to society in an informed and practical manner through their trade school opportunities. And I think it's also important to acknowledge that education can be gained in many non-traditional manners. So even if you're not in conventional and traditional schooling systems, you would still be able to gain access to important information you need to be an informed citizen.
And going off of like right now what's happening with the vaccinations, I do think that perhaps if people don't want to get vaccinated and their parents don't want them to get vaccinated because of a religion or because of religious reasons, that we could possibly have a system in place. Like for example, since we could have virtual school as well as normal school in order to fit the needs of others who can't possibly come into school, so that they can have the same education and so they can have the same opportunities as everyone else.
So let me take one that is going to expand the concept that we're talking about here, which is there's still some very important pieces to an established religion. I want you to be an advocate here, and I want you to advocate for a state-sponsored religion. What are the benefits of a state-sponsored religion?
In some other country, maybe.
I think some benefits of a state-sponsored religion could be that it creates a more unified and I guess everybody in the state you can kind of see are have similar beliefs and are practicing the same thing, and therefore they'd be more willing to help each other out and agree with each other since they're already on the same page as unified by religion. So
All
that
right,
is,
I'll stop you there just because we ran out of time, but I know you were just getting going, but good response. So, all right, well done, everybody. Thank you.
thank you
Good
so
job.
much.
Thank you.
We'll talk a little bit, some feedback real quick. Richard, I'll turn to you. You're on the mic.
Yes. Thank you very much. This was a very thoughtful presentation. I really appreciated your arguments. I appreciated also the way all three of you worked together in producing a presentation for us. They fit, all your presentations fit well together, and it was very clear, your arguments, and good job.
Should I go until there? Richard, we lost you for a minute.
Oh,
Might add your last couple of sentences again.
I just said that I thought that you all did a great job and that your arguments all blended well together, and congratulate you.
Great. And I would say the same. I think you did a lovely job. Things like practical purpose test and free exercise clause tests were what we're trying to talk about. And thank you for bringing them up. I hope you've had a good time doing this. I know you all had sort of emergency today to try and figure out who was reading what. I'm sure must have been fun to balance, but your teacher probably helped you figure that one out. And you did a really great job. And I hope that this has inspired you to be, if not more representatives and lawyers and people who know what they're talking about with regard to the government. We certainly need them, but also you're going to be much better citizens than you might have otherwise. And I bet you go vote every time, every chance you get, and you'll watch the news and read the news, and we'll all feel better, those of us adults, knowing that your generation will be taking over down the road, and I hope you'll play a role in that. I'm sure you're well on the way, a good start. So thank you so much. It was a great job.
Yeah, I was very impressed with the background and the breadth of your opening statement. Here's my encouragement to you. You obviously have a good understanding of it. When you're responding to the questions, try and pull in that authority, that precedent, and use it to your advantage. Because I like your opinions, and I agree with where you're going. But the more you can say, and oh, by the way, the Supreme Court agrees with me, the more you validate your own argument. So just encourage you to do that. But man, this is a hard question. The scope of this, we could touch on so many different things, and you were prepared to respond to so many different types of questions. So thank you very much. Wonderful job. And breathe a sigh of relief. Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you so much.